Hey, Josh. Thanks
Hey,
for coming, taking the time off your busy schedule, coming and having this talk with me. Funny
absolutely.
enough, we had a pretty much a podcast a couple of weeks ago because we were chatting at the meetup for a while, and that's what ends up happening. And like we were talking, that was just my purpose. We had so much information that we shared between each other, and I was like, it'd be great if people could just listen to the
hmm
information being shared. You know, I don't promise that we have to share valuable information, but hopefully somebody in the similar field could learn something out of it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so thanks for coming and coming in here to talk to me. How was your drive? You're a little further from me, right?
Oh man, I'm so thankful that I have my own business and I don't have to leave my house if I don't want to. Yeah, traffic is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah,
Just
Orlando.
it makes me very thankful to just, walk from my bedroom to eat some food and then out to the garage where I have my little office set up and yeah, it's
Yeah,
great.
well, isn't that the life, right?
It
You
is.
have to be self-disciplined, though. It's not for everyone.
Yes.
Because for some people, they do need that 9 to 5. But yeah, not for me. I'm like, no.
No.
No, I'd rather make my own schedule. But then it
Yes.
gives you the freedom. Earlier this year, or I said earlier, last year, my family was like, "Oh, we haven't been on a vacation, international vacation in a while." I was like, "All right, let's go on a cruise," and we were able to do that.
Yeah.
Because funny enough, most of what we do is on a computer, and I was able to still continue my business. I know I shouldn't on vacation, but I was like responding to emails and texts and stuff
Yeah.
because you can buy, thanks to Starlink, internet on these cruise ships now. And it was like never leaving work,
Yeah.
so it was incredible.
Except for you can show your clients and your friends like, hey, by
look-
the way,
Yeah,
here's
look
what
where-
I'm doing when
Yeah.
I'm not answering emails.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that's the life. So I'm so glad, obviously, I do this.
Yeah.
Tell me more about like how you started into this.
Yeah. So I picked up a camera a long, long time ago. Minolta Dimage Z1, I think, 3.2 megapixels, and just played around with it. And then I went into high school and I started getting into film photography and dabbled in some large format stuff. And, it was just kind of fun. I was just playing around. I wasn't even doing like senior portraits or anything like that. Back then, you didn't have YouTube University, so you couldn't really go online and, learn as much as you possibly can right now. Anyways, fast forward, I went to Northern Michigan University and I went for a different degree originally and then ended up switching it over to photography. And then the rest is history. Like I've been doing photo or video in some shape or fashion ever since then. So
Wow, which university you said?
Northern Michigan University,
Okay.
go Wildcats.
Look at that.
Go,
I
go
went
Wildcats.
for a semester, so how I ended up in the U.S. was through an exchange program with Disney and Central Michigan University.
Oh,
Look at that.
okay. Nice.
So funny enough, so what brought you down to Florida?
So, well, this is a bit of a story. So, Michigan shut down really hard with COVID. And so, my business, what had happened is I had hired my first employee February of 2020. We had a baby February 2024, my wife and I, not my employee.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
interesting.
to clarify
yeah.
that. And then I think it was like early March, everything just shut down. So couldn't go to the office. I had an office downtown Marquette, Michigan. Basically couldn't leave the house. And so for like 4 months, we just sat in the house, not sure what to do. The only cool thing is our third kid. And we got to spend a ton of time just hanging out as a family, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely don't take that for granted.
But what did you do with the employee? Were they actually coming to work and just hanging out with the family, or they were just at home doing
They were
nothing?
just at home, yeah, because we weren't allowed, like, they were really hardcore about it. And so thankfully we had the PPP loans, so that kept at least a little bit of money rolling in, but basically I wasn't making anything.
Yeah.
So it was enough to cover bills for me and the employee, and actually worked out better that I had the employee because we got a little bit more money. And then I had a buddy who had a production agency in Alabama, and out of the blue, he's like, called me up.
Who? Do I know anyone?
Wes Wages.
Oh, I know that guy.
Do you?
Not personally, but I have through common people. Yes, yeah. So
Armosa Studios.
Yes.
He's amazing.
Okay.
I love that guy.
look at that. I didn't even know that common thread. But go ahead.
Yeah. So he called me up out of the blue and he's like, would you like to come do a shoot for Winnebago, like the RV company? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And it had turned out.
How'd you know him again?
So through Studio Sherpas,
Okay.
Ryan Coral. We had gone to a meetup in Michigan, and we met there and just kept in contact.
Okay.
And so we got our stimulus check that summer, $6,000, right?
Yeah. Wow.
Not
Good
a
money.
lot. Not too bad. Yep. And so to dive back a little bit further, I'd always wanted to buy an RV, travel, do that sort of thing. My wife was not super on board. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, we got this stimulus check and we were just staying at home. It turned out that I needed to do a little bit of traveling for my work. And she's like, I'm not staying at home with 3 kids. Like, I'm going to come with you. Let's, find an RV. And I laughed it off. I was like, there's no way. Like, I can't buy an RV for $6,000.
Yeah.
She's like, just look. So I went on a bunch of different places and, found a bunch of rolling meth labs essentially.
Yeah.
But I went on to
Breaking
eBay.
Bad type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Walter White could shave my head, grow a mustache. But I went on to eBay and there was this one that was buy it now. And it looked terrible on the outside, but it had low mileage. And I called the guy and I'm like, does everything work? He's like, yep, everything works. So we bought it.
Look at that.
Probably a terrible idea, but it ended up working out great. And so we ended up traveling through 39 different states, working in a bunch of different places, doing a ton of work with my buddy Wes for Winnebago, Tiffin, couple other things. I got a client that has campgrounds around the US, so I was doing that. And we were just traveling for about a year and a half.
Traveling and making videos for the
Absolutely
people while you're traveling. So that's pretty neat.
Yep.
And then what landed you in Florida?
So one of the last jobs that I did with Wes was for Tiffin Motorhomes, and that was in Ocala. And we had been coming down to Florida every single year anyways. We really like Florida, especially during the wintertime. I'm Midwest born and raised. I've lived in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, North Dakota, all very cold places. And so it was time for a change. So we had this job in Ocala, got done with that. And then we decided, maybe we're done with the RV lifestyle for a little bit. And we made the mistake of renting an Airbnb that had multiple bedrooms, big TV, big pool. And we were like, yeah, I think it's time to find a place and settle down. So then we started searching for homes in Florida, and here we are 3 years later.
Look at that. Did you sell the RV? So it's gone?
We did, yeah.
So it's RV life is in the past now?
Well, we have a travel trailer now. And I think we'll do it again with the kids when they get a little bit older. Because our youngest he was a baby. He doesn't really remember anything. So I'd love to do it again with the kids.
That's awesome to meet someone. Because, funny enough, like all people, before COVID, before pandemic, a lot of times I have done that, or had the idea of it'd be so cool to travel, and it was so funny. My mom, Indian, so I took her to one of those RV dealerships and she's like, what are you doing? And this is not, anyway, because, the Indian parents, they're like doctor, engineer, settle life. This is completely
not travel around in an RV.
No, that's not even like a concept for Indian parents, at least. Anyway, so I did do that. That was a long time ago, 2016 or whatever. But there was been times when I considered that, and obviously, for me at least, looking back, I'm so glad I didn't take the plunge, because what I initially started, was Class A's, big ones, and then finally, the last time I considered them, I wanted to do before it was trending on YouTube, I wanted to do the van life. Yep. But now I'm like, how would I run this video business? I have more gear that could, as you saw my van earlier, there would be no room for me and the wife of the kids, and anyway. So I'm glad I didn't do it. For me, it wouldn't have been the right thing. I'd rather be, one of those where we rent it for a week or whatever, than permanently move into one. But I did consider it many times. So it's good to meet somebody who actually ended up taking the dive and actually doing it, and seems like had a great time, because you're doing shoots too. So which is the ultimate thing. What happened to the employee? Did you have to lay them off, I'm guessing?
We did, yeah. I kept her on for as long as possible and tried to send her like editing work and stuff. And then her and her husband actually moved downstate Michigan. So it was just too far. Like I was living a different lifestyle. Where originally, we were in the same town, went to the same office, so it made sense. And then after that, it just didn't.
So was it like one of those employees where you have to shoot, edit everything, pretty much?
Yeah.
So how did that conversation go for people, because that is part of it. As somebody who's had to do that, and to be real, I like to delegate that task. It's been so fun for me. I've had to fire people sometimes on set. And as a director, I call my producer, which is Julie. She's more lead editor now, but at that time, she was doing both roles. Anyway, I'll be like, all right, Julie. And then, I'd put her aside. I was like, okay, we need to let that person go and all right. And then she's like, all right, buddy, come here.
Oh, no.
But, sometimes you have to. I mean, that's just, unfortunately, when you're the leader, that is what you have to do. Because, at the end of the day, the client is the boss. And that is what's most important. But coming back to it, how was that conversation? Because I know it's a difficult conversation, regardless whether it's mutual, it's still a difficult conversation. So how did you manage that? How did you handle that? Especially seems like you hadn't done that before.
No.
This is your one and only time. So please walk us through so people can know what it's like or how to do it.
Man, I don't like conflict. So I definitely am not the person to be like, here's how to fire somebody or let somebody go. She kind of saw the writing on the wall. I mean, my business was going in a different direction. Her and her husband moved. They had a kid. She lived out kind of in the boonies. So internet was not great. So even sending her editing work was difficult. So I just called her one day and I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry, but this is not working. And she knew it was coming, right?
Okay. So she took it well. There was no animosity or anything.
No, we're still good friends to this day. So.
Perfect. So that's great. And that's what I'm saying, people. Like, and I'm not, it's not an easy conversation. Like I said, a lot of times I've had to delegate it, but having done that myself too, where I've had to have that conversation, it is very difficult, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because, regardless, like I said, even if it's mutual, there is a little bit of like, what? You feel like rejected. I guess it's like, Tinder or whatever, right? When people are like saying no to you, even though it's virtual, you still feel a little bad. Anyway, so.
But I think it also depends on what the circumstance is, right?
Yeah.
Like if they know that it's coming and, it's not that big of a deal versus, if they did something that they knew they really screwed up or, you just don't like them or something, then it's more awkward, more difficult to do, right?
I think for me, the difficult one is, where I've had a few times where the client wants them gone from the set. That is the most rough one. But I saw the valid writing why.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I'm like, look, but here's my strategy. I'm like, look, I'm going to still pay you for the day.
Yep.
Right? You're not getting, it's not like, oh, you came for 1 hour, so I'm going to now give you 1/10 of your pay or whatever.
Yep.
Personally, for me, it's like, look, you shouldn't have done what you did. But at the end of the day, there's no blame game here, right? So I'm going to pay you full. So you get to actually not work and get paid. But obviously that does not, but the awkward part here for me has at least been the people will usually text me. They're like, hey, I hope this doesn't affect our working relationship. And I'm not a liar. I don't want to lie. So it's like, yes, it will, unfortunately, though. So I'm like, I'm not going to lie to them. Like, no, you're good. Because at the end of the day, it's hard to bring somebody on that, but they may still fit. I'm not saying I've had people where I've like considered like never hiring them again. And then I have many, many times. So there's both sides to it. But yeah, it is one of the more difficult things that we have to do, especially if you're trying to be a producer, director, or owner of a company, right? So,
and it's good to have that transparency because honestly, you want to help people grow, right? So if they did something wrong and they truly want to grow, they're going to own up to whatever, happened. So that's good for you for doing that.
Exactly.
I've only been on set once. I don't work a lot of larger productions, but I've only been on set once where somebody was asked to not come back for the rest of the production. And it was super weird because nobody else was told. And then all of a sudden that person wasn't there and we're all like, oh, where's so-and-so? And it was just kind of an awkward unknown. And usually I'm not like, to be real, on my side, at least as a producer or director, either way, whether I did it directly or had somebody else like who was under me go do it, we're not going to start now going to the rest of the crew. That person's not coming back. I'm generally like, they're not going to be back and that's it. And you move on. You're not going to stand there, give reasoning or whatever, because A, we don't have time for that. And B, we don't want to
But yes, then it does become an awkward unknown because it's like,
Yeah.
hey, walk with me, and then they don't come back, but you come back, and we continue with the shoot. But hey, I'm so glad we're having this conversation. It wasn't obviously planned, but
Yeah.
it is an important conversation, and it's an important skill to learn because I'm not for political talk. But you have to handle this carefully because at the end of the day, there's a human being on the other side of it who is also being affected. And I don't know. I'm all for on the other side. I at least personally, I'm all for if somebody reaches out like, hey, what happened? Blah blah blah. I'm happy to have that conversation. If any way I can help them, not have that situation in the future, why not? Like again, we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. It's one world. I'm not like, but I would never do that. I've also heard stories from buddies where it's like they go to a production meeting and then somebody doesn't like them who goes, I'm the DP. If you bring this gaffer again, I am quitting. And then the production generally has to pick the DP. So they have to fire these other people just because this guy had an attitude trip. But they can't ruin their production because they've built the look and everything, right? So yeah, it's hard to work with people like that too. I wouldn't obviously bring them on my set, but then when I hear these stories, I'm like, oh my goodness, that sounds like a nightmare.
I don't understand that. So I'm Midwest born and raised, and like I also work on smaller productions, right? So even the ones that, they have a specific role and they do not do anything outside of that, I don't understand that. If it works for those productions, that's great. But I've always worked on the production that, like, at the end of the day, everybody wraps. And we all do it fast so we can get to dinner faster or we can get to bed faster or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, how can we help one another work together?
Exactly. Same thing. I think we're in similar space, corporate and commercial work. Now, I would say some of my shoots that do end up being really, really large, I'm talking $300,000-$400,000. There is a hierarchy, and it's more for efficiency's sake because when you have 50, 60 people on set, you don't want anyone doing something and causing other person's work to slow down, even though you think you're helping. But to be real, 95% of my sets are 10 or less people, and that's where it's all hands on deck. It's like, it doesn't matter, you're a PA or you're a director. Everyone's picking up bags, everyone's helping load in, load out, or whatever the task is, because at the end, everyone's working together to build an image. We're not working for credits, right? It's not like it's my image, it's your image, it's everyone's image. Everyone at the end helped client get whatever they wanted at the end there, right?
Yeah.
So talk about I want to talk the story how we met. It's so funny because we didn't meet. It's so weird. So it doesn't happen often with me. Obviously, I will hire owner operators in other states sometimes when there's not budget for me to go or I'm busy or whatever. So I have hired people, but typically I will have like a video call or something like, hey, let's hop on a call or whatever. But yours is one of the rare ones. So here's what happened, my side, and then I want to know your side of it. So a very good, I would say, people I've known for a few years, an agency, part of my chamber, whatever. They needed some content for a big, I would say, theme park or whatever you want to describe it here locally, and then they wanted some content for that, and I'm excited. I'm like, absolutely, let's go. And then they're like, we just want photos, and obviously I'm a video agency, but guess what? We have to provide photos. But I'm also about doing it right, so I don't say, oh, let me go do it. Headshots is fine, it's easy. But what I'm saying is, we don't go, we'll also do photos. Like, I'll go do photos, then I can't give them the best. So what I do is I hire photographers all the time to provide that service anyways, because again, at the end of the day, if I say no, then I'm losing the client. Regardless, this one was also more helping out. Their budget was on the lower side than I would like, but it was more like, hey, we have an existing relationship. I really like the employee that works there. I've worked with him on other projects. Anyway, point is, it was like, oh yeah, I want to definitely help you, but on the other side, it's like, it's only photos, and I'm not gonna, it was drone photos too.
It is,
and I'm like, if it was drone video, I'd be all over that. But then I was like, okay, so I want to provide them good quality content from Binder Productions. So I went on our group thing and I was like, hey, who does drone photos or whatever? And then you came up, and then it was so last minute that, I was like, look, I've not met you. Just don't ruin this relationship for me, because that's for me far more key. And obviously, we did hop on the phone. At least we did talk. And obviously, you did incredible work. They loved it, because the first thing I did was, after you sent me the photos, I sent the guy over there photos, my contact over there. And then a day or two later, I emailed him. I was like, hey, how did it go? How was everything? And he's like, no, it was great.
Good.
Your photographer was great. So I was like, okay, awesome. So everything's maintained. They got the content at the budget that they had. And hopefully you had a great time. So that was at least my experience.
Yeah.
And then funny enough, when we finally met, I didn't recognize your face. They're like, you've hired me before. And I was like, what? I how do I not recognize? Then, you know, obviously when we knew, I was like, oh, Josh. Okay. And then, you know, obviously here we are.
Yeah.
So now take me from your perspective of this experience. At least that's mine.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the group that we're in, awesome group of folks here in the production realm in the Orlando area and surrounding area. And yeah, I had just gotten my drone license. I've been flying drone for a long time. Maybe I'm not supposed to tell this, but I've never got my license because most of the stuff I do is like out in the woods. It's architectural stuff. It's not, you know, metro area like the one that we talked about where they're saying specifically like, tell us what your flight plan is. How long are you going to be in the air? Where are you going to be in there? You know, very specific things. Got to have drone insurance, the whole works. So we had a number of conversations to make sure that went. But for me, it's just awesome to be able to have new connections. And that's part of, you know, getting yourself out there. I'm fairly new to the area within the past 3 years. And so it's just me meeting people. And so, you know, having an opportunity like that, you took a chance on me. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. Now we have a relationship.
And exactly. now you don't have to think about hiring you, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's, it went great.
Yeah, no. And that's the other side of shoots like that. So that was obviously at a theme park with actual guests, travelers. So they can't take any risks. So we had to like provide them actual flight plans, insurance. Like you said, you have to have a license. Yeah. It's one thing, you know, like you said, when you're for us, like for corporate video, at least what I am most time using drones for is push outs at like the beginning and then end of videos. You know, establishing shots or whatever at a business. But that's the extent of typically it is. Anyway, so but this one, you know, it's like you're flying over. You say you're not going to fly over people and you're providing insurance and all this written thing. So paperwork was most of the part. And then funny enough, when you show up, all that is the legalese. Now they're like, oh, go over there, go in this person, go on top. And you're like, none of this is, you know, but that's just how it is. You know, because at the end of the day, these companies don't want liability, right?
Exactly.
The theme park is going to push the liability, or the resort. I don't know the right way to describe them. But they're going to pass the liability to the marketing agency. Then the marketing agency is going to pass the liability to me. And then I'm going to pass the liability to you. This is how it works.
That's right.
Exactly, right? Yep. At the end of the day, everyone just wants to be able to go, if something goes wrong, you know, hey,
not my fault.
it was on you, right? And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
When you get especially to these higher end jobs, like even though, like I said, their budget was lower, at the end, the client was very high end. So that's just what it is, right?
Yep.
But I'm glad, like I said, it all worked out. They loved the content. You know, like I said, they were happy. I'm happy. At the end, we met, and you know, directly, like I said, because of that, and built this working relationship. And in the future, hopefully, we can obviously collaborate a lot more. But anyway, that was very interesting to me that I've had that never happen. I think where somebody's been like, "I worked for you," and I'm like, "Who are you?" And then it took me a second. As soon as you were like that location, I was like, "Oh, I know you, of course." Now it's like it's like we know each other. Yep. And then we had such an incredible conversation after that about business and strategies and everything. So anyway, that was incredible.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So what type of videos are you making? Obviously, I know you do drone photography.
Yes.
But what else are you dabbling in, and what else do you do?
I've never really niched down too much. I do photo and video production. I started off with photography, and then video just became a part of the business, and I really enjoyed it. So I do a lot of corporate stuff, interviews, brand stories. If you're going to dive into what things I like to shoot, lifestyle would be my number one, and then architectural. And then if I can do it, automotive. And that's mostly because of the RV work that I've done. And I just like cars. So
exactly. Yeah. So what price range are you trying to shoot into? And then I would love to know your sales strategy. So what price range, let's talk about project. Cause sometimes, it's not per video. sometimes a project is one video, right? Sometimes it could be 3 videos, sometimes it could be photo and video.
Yeah.
So, but what price range of a project are you aiming for typically when you're looking for clients?
For 2025, I'm definitely upping it, but at bare minimum, I want to stay in the $5,000 range and then go up from there.
And is that where you were in 2024? Where were you in 2024? A realistic number where you were. What would you say?
It depends on the project. I definitely had lower ones, but I would say an average is between 5 and 10.
5 and 10, but just pretty good for corporate and commercial work.
Yeah.
And how are you finding these clients? What's your strategy?
I don't have a strategy.
Because you're new to the area.
To say, but
but let's be real. You've been in this area 3 years, right? And you're obviously finding clients. You're doing pretty good. So how are you navigating the market? Let's get into that. For somebody who's in this area or maybe any city, how do they navigate the market when they're new or within a couple of years of moving there?
For me, it's a lot of repeat business. So I'm going back up north, and then it's just connections that I've made over the years. And then really my sales strategy for the time being is just meet up with groups like the one that we're in and just make connections and tell people the type of work that I do. My goal for 2025 is to actually start reaching out to companies. I just haven't had the time and wherewithal to do that. We're a family of 5, so we're super busy with that. We moved to a new city this year, so that was super busy. And then this summer, just from repeat clients, like Q1 was super slow, and then Q2 and 3 was just pedal to the metal, traveling all over the place. And then now it's kind of quieted down and I'm catching up. And now it's like, all right, how do I make a sales strategy? And, messaging you, talking about, okay, I should join the chamber and I should make some new connections. And really, that's all it is. It's just making as many connections as possible.
Yeah, just putting yourself out there. And don't be afraid, because a lot of people will go at least, they already have 5 video people, or they already have, I don't know, whatever, or the thing is, stop treating your fellow video people as competition.
Yeah.
We all grow together, and there's enough work for everyone. And funny enough, if they're better than you, then they can hire you.
Exactly.
And if you're better than them, you can hire them. There's no competition.
Yeah.
I find that very strange feeling. And at the end of the day, just go there, meet people, shake hands, and me and Adam had such a great talk about that. So I would recommend everyone go listen to that one. But like it's all about putting those boots in the ground. Now that's not all the strategies. This is one of the way to do it. There's other ways that we have people in our group doing it and finding huge success with ads and social media and marketing and whatever. But to me, that's what's worked. Just going to a chamber, meeting people, shaking hands, telling them what you do, and also my strategy is to let the work do the talking. So it's like, hey, and then it's so funny. I go to some events and some client will get up and they're like, he's great. And I didn't tell them. I didn't plant them there because, they're there to promote their business. They're like, but he made a video for my business. And that the other video guy can't do because
absolutely,
you know what I mean? And then it's so funny even, and then I also say partner with your chamber because it's so great because I'm like, we'll make a video and then somebody else will make a video and our video is all about storytelling and then the other video is just a montage. And not saying a montage is bad, but it's not the same impact, right?
Right.
So even the chamber goes, when somebody calls them, even though they're supposed to be non-biased, right? They'll go, call Bindra. And because, people do call chamber.
Yep.
I know I have where I'm like, hey, I'm looking for this, right? I'm looking for a real estate agent, whatever. Recommend anyone. Because again, the trust factor with the chamber, they're not going to recommend me somebody who's not good. Yep. You want to be the guy that they tell, hey, and I've closed big deals. Now, long-term strategy. This doesn't work tomorrow. Like you show up at a chamber, the second day you're like, oh, where's my clients? But long-term, if you've been active for years, that there's a higher chance you're going to be able to close these high-end deals. Yeah. Now, here's the catch-22. I do want to say that. Like, there's one chamber that's quite far from me now because I moved, and I've not been able to be active at all. So now I'm debating, is it worth, even being a member or what? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, I'm like, I can't, it's me. And like you, I'm traveling. I'm literally flying tomorrow morning out. I'm like, I can't just do this, right? I can't just be everywhere. Yep. And I'm not going to hire somebody just to go to these events for me. So there's sides to it, but no, I highly recommend somebody, especially if you're new to the area. That's the best place to meet your clients, which are businesses. So that's incredible. Yeah.
Well, and depending on what you want to do with your production company, like for me, I actually want to go and find my own clients as well as doing, the shooting. I'm trying to pass off all of the editing to my editor now. But I realized I had a chat with my wife not long ago, and I need to set a specific day every week to go and just talk with people, make those connections and those conversations, because even if you just meet somebody once, you're more likely to work with them than you are to have never met them, right? So when you hired me, you had no idea who I was, but because I was in that group, you at least felt a little bit more comfortable rather than like just some random person, right?
Exactly. And then what's crazy is when you responded to it, other people are like, Josh is great, Josh is great. That also builds trust, right?
Yep.
Again, people buy from people they like, know, and trust. And the best way to build that to me is obviously video. Obviously in person and then video. And then video can replace in person.
You're not biased, are you?
Yeah, well, I'm very biased. But I also believe in the product that I'm selling. And it works, right? But at the end of the day, I'm saying that's what it's about. Everyone has other video people in their town, and go meet them. Now, some people are not going to meet them, because when I started, I reached out a bunch of people and not everyone responded, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Go meet other people. And again, don't wait for instant reaction.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you immediately meet someone. Like I went to the meetup, right? I met a bunch of people. Doesn't mean to the next day I'm calling everyone, come, there's this project. But when a project comes, I genuinely at least try to keep the people in mind. I'm like, oh, this person may fit well or whatever, right? And so you never know, right? And it may not happen tomorrow. It may happen in 6 months, right? And so just don't, like I said, don't go with evil intentions. I guess that's my only thing. Just be nice, right?
Absolutely.
It's not that hard, right?
It's
just
karma, right? It comes back to you. If you put it out there and you be nice to people, it will come back to you.
Yeah, exactly. And then when they do hire you, just do a good job, you know? Don't say yes if you're not going to put your 100%. Because that has happened. Generally, when I bring on sometimes people where I'm like, they're green, they don't realize they're green. And that's okay. Because, you're so self-confident, which is what it takes to go take this leap of faith to go full time, and it's okay. I mean, I don't mind that, because I like confident people, obviously. But at the same time, it's okay to follow directions. If someone says, "Hey, can you set the light here? Put it there," blah blah blah, and you do it. You may not know right now why you're like, why am I putting the light there or there? You just have to follow the process. And I feel like as long as you're open. But it doesn't stop you from giving an opinion. I don't care who that person is. If I've never even worked for them, if they see something, please, because I'm thinking about 1,000 things, and this when we're literally talking with clients, they're thinking about lighting, camera, sound, whatever. We may miss something, and it's okay. And I love it when somebody goes, "Hey, could we move that there? It may look better." And I'm like, I think for a second, I'm like, absolutely, let's do it, right? Or sometimes I've had that happen where I go, no, I want to film on the shadow side. No, I'm not going to change that or whatever. So that's okay. And it's not being mean. It's like genuinely giving your thought, what do you call it? I'm actually giving it a shot, and I'm like going, yeah, absolutely. And why not? So what I'm saying is just be on set, be nice, be collaborative, and you'll improve. They'll improve their craft. It doesn't matter who they are or how experienced they are. You make the production better as long as you give it your 100%. And so only go if you genuinely want to go there. It's my point. Because sometimes you are not getting paid what you think you're worth.
Sure.
But then don't say yes, is my opinion. Only say yes if you genuinely want to either learn or whatever, because you never know what you're going to come back with. And I do that even now. I've said this before. Like for me, I had closed myself off. Like I started this production company, and I went around. Funny enough, I was in Florida. I was in Orlando, and then I was freelancing and I had a job or whatever, and then I moved away to Alabama for a few years. Biggest mistake, but let's not go there.
Where in Alabama?
Exactly where your friend was.
Not Florence.
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, and I started my company there. I'm in the middle of nowhere.
Way.
You know where Florence is. So,
yes.
So I genuinely, this company was started in Florence. So everyone goes around me. Funny enough, let's actually, most people don't have this reference. So let me tell you.
Yeah.
You know where Florence is. So you know how small that is.
Yes.
So I'm in Florence, and they're like, there's already an established company here. Hermosa,
yep.
Forever. And I don't know them personally. I don't want to go there.
Yep.
But point is, they were like, they're already here. They're already really good. They do a lot of business. So, you're not going to make it, blah, blah, blah. And at that point, like I said, there's two parts of it. There's business and then there's craft. I was 100% confident in my craft. I was like, I made thousands of videos. I'm not worried about the quality of the videos, right?
Yeah.
I'm worried about the business strategy. They've figured it out. They have existing clients and stuff like that, and I don't, right? So I'm like, I could have taken that and not taken the leap of faith, because I went all head in, right? I went fully in, like, this is it, 100% in the middle of this one of the smallest towns I could say. Anyway, and if I succeeded, guess what? By the way, I started the company on the 10th of September, something like that. 17th September, we had already made 30-40 grand. This is in a town with established partnership, with established, quality level and whatever. And they were good, obviously. That's why they were doing a lot of good work. And without any guidance, without any business strategies, so I'm saying, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all possible. You just have to give it your all in. But I didn't go in and say, oh, let me come make a video.
Yeah.
My whole strategy was I recruited everyone I could that I knew had talent around me in a small town, which is also very hard. And I was just like, let's go. Like, hey, look, I'm going to bring you a Grammy Award-winning audio engineer. I'm going to bring you a team of 3. We're going to have a BTS photo, BTS video. You know what I mean? The whole shebang. And then if obviously getting your first client is the hardest. So I did have help. Like, I had people, giving me leads. Like, hey, you could go talk to this person, go talk to this person or whatever. But then you have to go close those leads, right?
Yeah.
And it was so incredible walking away with, tens of thousands of dollars at the end of the day, and you go, oh, people thought I wouldn't make this in a year. I made this in 3 days. Now what?
Yeah.
Now, you know what I mean? Obviously, that doesn't mean all my strategies were great. I had to refine my business strategies because I had to learn myself. I didn't have anyone else, around me teaching me, because there wasn't that many options there to go reach out to. But anyway, the point is, so it doesn't matter who's there, who's established, what well they're doing, and it doesn't mean I went out for Winnipeg or whatever their clients were. I found my own clients, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just all about giving it a shot and just taking that leap of faith and giving it full effect. You never know, and don't listen to the noise around you. At least that's what I did. Yeah. Because to be honest, part of me obviously wanted to listen, right? You're scared, you're worried. You have a kid at home. You've got you got people to feed. You go, should I do this, or should I go for something more established? Maybe I could get a job in this field or whatever, right? Point is, don't listen to that. Just go give it 100%. You are an example of that. I'm an example of that. It's all doable. Plus, I did it, like I said, in a very, very small town. Please tell people how small that town.
Dude, like, why Florence? I don't want to dive too deep on this.
Well,
but why
somebody
Florence?
took me there.
Really?
Yeah, my wife. She's from there, so she was like, "It's
No
gonna
way.
be great," And then and I'm obviously 100% at that time. To be real, I'm glad I went. Okay, let me backtrack. At that point, I'd been in Orlando, and obviously I loved it. We can do so much here.
Oh yeah.
But I also go, Florida, traffic sucks. This is what is there. I can always come back for a vacation. The thought process. And then I'm like, whatever. And the home prices were absurd. And I'm like, oh, I can buy a brand new, really nice home there. Blah blah blah. So obviously there was other factors. I don't want to just say it was just that. And then as soon as I showed up, I was like, what do we do? Oh, it's just the 3 restaurants. You can only go eat down the road. And again, I love Southern food, but it's unhealthy. You can only eat it so many times the same thing. Anyway, so like I said, it was fun. It was nice. But then you go, what do I do?
Yeah.
Where do we go? And then I instantly was like, and then I thought, oh, I'm in the country. I'll do a lot of country things. And then we weren't doing that much country things. So I'm like, so it's not like, I'm enjoying the other side of the world. Anyway, so instantly, and then I took advantage of the COVID. As soon as COVID hit, I was like, let's get out of here. This is it. This is the time to leave. Because, everyone's making a move. And I'm like, this is perfect timing. And then took it. Obviously, can't have no regrets, never going back. But funny enough, I've gone back. I still have clients there. So I've gone back and shot. But that's it. That's the limit of what I'm going to do. I'll happily go back there, shoot for a few people, but I don't think I'm moving back. And it made my love for Orlando grow bigger. Sure. Because I'm the type of guy, I'm like, I have free time. Let's go to Disney. Let's go to Universal or wherever. There's so much to do here. And now I respect that more. Before I didn't. I was like, now I'm like, oh, being able to just go to these places. Oh, yeah. And then not spend weeks, planning or whatever is incredible. So,
or you can go in the off season.
There you go.
Right? Yeah. And then you don't have the massive crowds to wade through.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to, what I like is at least not have to, plan out, take vacation days, whatever, like the whole thing. This is every day for us, like for other people's vacations. So now our vacations can be different. Like I said, we could go on a cruise, we could do other things. And I don't know. Like I said, I respect it more. I get it. It's not for everyone.
Yep.
You know, it is hot and hot and hot and hot. Not everyone likes that.
Mm-hmm.
It was so great last year. I had Emmanuel on the podcast, and we were talking about how we were in DC for a project late last year, and it was fall weather, like real fall weather.
Yeah.
And it's like we don't get that down here. So there's pros
Except for
and cons.
now, like right now,
Yeah,
all of
but-
a sudden it's like a freak. You're
yeah, it's
where'd this come
random,
from?
but it's not also, you know, we don't have like leaves on the ground.
True.
And, you know, like, you know what I mean? You don't get that feel. I'm sure you know that from Michigan.
Yeah.
Obviously, you get it.
Oh, yeah.
You get way too much snow, obviously.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean, like, right?
Yeah.
Do you miss the snow?
Like the romantic side of it. Yeah, absolutely. You know,
So for
I'd go
5
up there
minutes?
for, you know, maybe a week or something like that. But
Do you
no,
don't miss shoveling?
no, like you know, all the stuff that you would spend hours and hours, whether it's warming the car, shoveling, scraping the windows, just being bitter cold. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't miss that at all.
Yeah. So like I said, if I you know, anyway, yeah, same thing. My kids go, my daughter goes, you know, she was like, it's snowing. Like, we want to go to Alabama. It snows. And I'm like, girl, it snows like one day a year, maybe at most there. If you really want to snow, we can go up north. I don't have that romantic side of it. Like, obviously it's cool.
Yeah.
Again, staying in Alabama for a few years, it was awesome that one day when it snowed.
Yeah.
But it was awesome because the whole town basically shut down, right? So you could just have 3 extra off days paid from work, because I had a job at the time too. But now I'm like, it wouldn't be fun if I was in Michigan, and because the world is used to it. I'm sure you guys don't shut down for 3 days for tiny snow, so you have to like shovel and whatever, right? And I'm like, that doesn't sound fun at all, you know. So yeah, I'm happy where I am. Obviously, they want to see snow. I'm like, we have here in Orlando. There's enough locations, you know, where they do the fake snow park and whatever. I'm like, I can show you snow if that's what you want to see.
We go to SeaWorld where they do the bubbles in the air, and you know, it's 50 degrees. You're like, this is close enough.
They're doing ice skating. I'm like,
That's
look,
right.
there you go. Which is funny. My daughter, oh my goodness, tangent. But my daughter was like, I want to go ice skating. I took her, and then for 40 minutes, all she did was hold the handrail to just walk. And I was like, there you go. There's your ice skate. It's different, you know, when you look at it. It looks beautiful. But you know, when you do it, I'm like, it's all right. I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's people listening who love that, and that's great. I have buddies who go every year to, you know, go snowboarding or whatever, and that's great for them. I'm just like, I'm happy in my little bubble, and I'll definitely go for vacation. But that's my limit, you know. I think I'm happy, and like I said, it took a while. It took me that change to Florence and back to just go, okay, I'm happy. This is it, which is why, you know, bought the home, now settled and made roots down here, because I'm like, this is it. We'll travel, but I'm just happy down here, you know, because I think this is a good permanent spot. And then, but anyway.
So I'm super interested in your story. So first of all, you had a milestone this past year. What was your revenue, or what did you make this past year?
So we finally crossed 2 mil.
Hey, let's take a moment for that. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
So I want to know, how do you go from, you know, being in Orlando, going to Florence, Alabama? No hate on Florence or Muscle Shoals. I just like saying that name. And then I want a sweatshirt that says Muscle Shoals. I still haven't gotten it. But how do you get from that, coming back to Orlando? Where were you financially as far as your production company then, to how do you get to where you were this past year?
So funny enough, like I said, I started in 2010 here through Central Michigan and Disney exchange program thing, blah, blah, blah. Went back to India for a little bit to finish my degree, and did the internship at my dream job per se in India, whatever. Didn't like it. I've talked about it, so I don't want to go into that. But the point is, now I'm back in US. Right, I'm working for Disney full time, and then I started freelancing video on the side, bought my T4i and all that. Right. Yeah. Anyway, and then, you know, obviously went through the freelance journey, but it was a side job, so I was like, you know, I'm passionate about making videos. So for years, I just did it to do it. You know, it was like, you know, what happens is when it's not your primary source of income, and I finally had a decent. I mean, those exist. Had a decent job at Disney that paid well. You stop thinking about, you know, like, I have to make money. But there's always been this entrepreneur. My family's multi-generational from business. So I had this entrepreneurial side in me. Like, I was still making people sign contracts and, you know, making a legit, even for a free job. I'm like, no, I don't come out for that. So there was some side of the entrepreneurial side to it, but it wasn't deep. And then obviously started other companies, did tons of things. Point is, it was never primary source of revenue, but I was doing enough that I was making decent money out of it. And it was a buddy of mine. Funny enough, we still talk in Florence in muscle shows, whatever. Right? He goes like, dude. Like he got me inspired, and at that time, you do everything. He's like, make me a logo. He's starting some company. He's like, make me a logo, and so he's like encouraging me. I was like, sure, I'll make it for $500, right? That's how your brain goes. And he's like, sure. I don't remember the exact amount, but I'm just saying, let's say that. And then he makes it. He's like, so great. Now make me this, or have a buddy who wants to make a video. So and it always takes people around you. The point is somebody who's encouraging me, and then I'm also miserable at my job because I'm like, what am I doing? This isn't fun. Point is, it was in that leap of faith, and I was like debating it. I was like, I want to do this full time, right? Yeah. I want to go deep dive in it. I knew, and by the way, in mid of that, I bought like GH5s and GH4s and blah blah blah.
Shout
Moved through the journey,
GH5.
Yeah. I mean, and GH5S primarily at that time was my main A camera when I started this company, and I still had my GH4s. So I was always on top of everything. Which is, like I said, it's passion. I'm doing it anyway. So long story short, here's was my thing. What I noticed in my freelance journey, I was like, everyone's just making, and equipment wasn't this accessible back then, right? We didn't have really good cheap lights and cheap cameras. So I was like, everyone's just making trashy videos at the low level. They'll charge the clients $500, and then it was really bad. I'm talking, you can make better videos cell phone now,
right?
And then. The videos don't do anything. They're just a montage. There's no purpose to them. And I know, obviously, power of video. I know how effective video marketing can be. I've been bullish on YouTube since the beginning. And so I was like, you know what? And plus, my desire to be on big stats, right? Yeah. I was like, I don't want to deal with the BS that comes with music videos and movies, indie movies. But I still want to make those type of content. How can I bring these small businesses that level of content that I've seen on sets that are bigger?
Yeah.
And so it took a lot of thought process. Like I said, I was going through this while I had a job. So the process was very simple. I'm like, okay, so I know this guy who's really good at audio processing. I have these buddies. I have me who's good at strategy. And then point is, and I have Julie at home who's good at organization. So I brought all the people together. I was like, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a production company, and I'm going to, again, arbitrarily, that time I was like, I'm just gonna charge people $1,000 per minute or whatever.
Sure.
Like, I thought stupid, but at that point, my calculation was if I make this much minutes of video, produce video. But from day one, the fundamentals I think were very good. We were like, we'll never share raw video. We'll rehash the content to make more money in the future. So I had given enough thought. What I'm saying before I paid any. Pen to paper. Plus, having started enough companies, I was like, I'm not spending all this time doing LLC. It's going to be sole proprietorship. You know what I mean? I had enough business fundamentals, I would say, that there was less risk, but there was still huge risk because I put all my 401k, everything into it. And I went, so all in, to be real, 1 week after. So the first week, same thing. So everyone around me goes, you can't charge people $1,000 per minute or produce video. They'll never pay that. That's too much.
That was here in Orlando?
No. That's in Florence. Remember, we're in Florence now. So that's my journey. Anyway, so I go, oh, really? Oh, really? And then, I show up, and then I showed up at a local university. And they were like, we already have a company that we work with and stuff like that. And I was like, look, here's what I'm going to make for you. I'm going to make a testimonial. I don't know, it's like $4 or $5 grand, whatever the price was. Remember, this is my first ever thing, and I'm like official thing, and I'm like, but it's gonna be like nothing like you guys have experienced before, because I knew even this other company was doing great, but they weren't bringing BTS, photo, video, everything for the university, whatever. I'm saying anyway. So and then same thing with other local businesses. I was like having meetings, but it was at that. It was like genuinely going there, genuinely paying attention. So instead of this was my strategy from day one. I was like, I'll make you a pretty video. It'll have all the right equipment, blah, 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 right? Let's talk about why you want this testimonial. Why do you want this brand video? And obviously, immediately, like with the university, it was like, okay, let us think about it. And then not even 5 minutes, I was like, absolutely, nonchalant, absolutely. Because the good thing is I had some leeway, obviously. I didn't just... I wasn't going to go bankrupt if they didn't take it. Anyway, I walked out. You won't believe 1 minute later, they're like, let's do it. And then same thing with the next, when I was like, okay, it's going to be 10 grand. I'd like, 50% down now. How would you like to pay it? And then they go, oh, maybe we could see. I was like, well, And then what's there to think about, whatever, right? And then they go, you know what? Yes, here's the check. You know what I mean? Like, it was like that.
Yeah.
And then now you're with 30 grand or whatever, and you go, holy crap. This is it far exceeded what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I immediately bought, I was like, okay, now these clients deserve the best. So I did that one testimonial with the GH5S. That was it. Like, we moved very quickly. I was like, okay, I invested in 4 C200s. Big. I made so much money from them.
Nice.
And then, all the best lights, they were like, I think it was 120D Mark IIs or whatever. I bought a 3 light kit. Point is, from day one, we were like, or say second video technically, because we did use the original content for that one video. But outside that, we were like all in. And then I partnered with local school organizations and this, like, because there's limited. You're very little option in Florence. And then I was reaching out to all my contacts outside. This is how I was flying in or flying out. I was like, hey, now I'm a production company. We have really good audio. Another thing I was focusing on, which other people didn't at the time, I was like, no, we're going to have high quality audio, high quality camera, high quality everything. Anyway, it was just that. It was like just being able to tap into other people. And it was just that. It was not even something crazy like hire me. But from day one, we were like that. I was like, look, this is what I'm going to make you. And if I'm not the right fit, I'm not the right fit. And you would be amazed how many people saw that.
Yeah.
And it was very quick to find people who were fitting. And then I was noticing all the people who'd say no and would go to somebody outside of me and the other company because, that was their only choice. And I know what they were charging. So I was like, I know we're about the same in pricing. Sure. So if you're going to third, I know there's no one else that good out here. So it was always terrible. It was like, so your option was either, at least locally, I'm saying, it was me or Hermosa or no one. Yep. So it was kind of pretty much like that because there was a few other companies, but like I said, it wasn't what we were trying to do there. And that was pretty good. And then what I liked was I was able to coexist in that small little market. And again, I was there very limited time. I don't want to take too much of it. And then I was able to fly out and travel out and get big gigs. Obviously, there were some mistakes made, as in like I was so like gung-ho on it being a production company that so many people just came in. They were like, we just want the raw files. Like I want it from you. I was like, nope, not me. Yeah. Unless I own the footage. If you want edited, sure. Which I've changed now, which is fine. Like I said, again, I'm never for hurting for revenue. But at that time, I was so like, no, we're going to be a production company. I don't show up unless there's 4 people, blah, 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 right? And it worked. Because I also, the other thing is I did try to match up what I said or exceed it. Because if I was like, I'm going to bring 3 people, 3 cameras, I brought 4 cameras and 4 people, always from day one. And they were always impressed. And we were always from day one trying to tell better stories. It doesn't matter the visual. Obviously, they'll be somewhat good. Yeah. But it was like the stories is what they cared about. And then talk about that university. As soon as I got that first testimonial, I sent it to every department. I was like, look, we're a registered vendor. We have this is the video. And I was happy to share. I was like, this is the video we made. Do you want one? And now it's $7,000, right? Yeah. So we made tons of money. I'm saying that year, I think, I don't want to quote exact numbers, 70, 80 grand just from that one university client without even putting in effort, because all we did was send an email, right? That was it. Yeah. That was it.
The work's already done.
Yeah, exactly. Because now we are a registered vendor. We have this client. We have a proven thing. Our contract's proven because it's a state-owned university. So anyway, I think it's all about just coming. I hope that answered your question. Yeah. It's just about obviously perfecting your business skills and then perfecting your craft. And if you are not good at craft, you can always bring people. And I was from day one bringing people with me. And it's not about that I couldn't do it. It's because I wanted to focus on the client and the client experience. And I was focused on directing. If I had picked up cameras or lighting or whatever, and not that doesn't mean I wasn't helping set up, but my focus was the client experience and the story experience. I think that separated me from their experience in the past. And I was able to kind of, I guess, establish myself. And as soon as, you do good work, they're happy to bring you back. Absolutely. And once I was able to do that for enough people, I at least found that, I no longer have to worry about revenue. I was focused on following solutions. I've talked about that again. First time I had issue where the cameras wouldn't sync. I'm like, okay, we're time code only now going forward. First time I had issue of a card not working. Time code only. For a first time had issue with A or B cam not matching. We had I think it was C200, and then another, I think some Canon camera is what I was shooting on, and it didn't match. I didn't like in post that the tight didn't match the thing. Nothing wrong, people do that all the time, but I was like, never again. For my shoots, A and B camera have to match.
Yep.
Our B-roll camera has ever been extra cameras, which is very rare, again, corporate video. And the advantage of that was once I solved a problem, it's never been a problem. So now I've realized when I ask my clients why you hire me, they hire me for reliability. I show up, we're going to show up, what we're going to bring, what we're going to do, and the result that we're going to give them. They get it. And then I find that it's a lot easier because now I don't have to sell or do anything. It's like genuinely just trying to help people. And it just kind of skyballs from there. And then, like I said, a year or two ago, finally opened where it's like, I don't care. Now I can show up and be your DP. I don't know why I had that stupid restriction in there. And happy to give people raw files, obviously for a price.
Right.
Unless they're hiring me a DP, then that's different. Then they just get the files. Point is, and that made it, I think, finally brought everything to where it is now. And I think I'm very happy to talk about 2024. I think it was such an incredible year where I personally felt creatively happy. I felt as a business we were happy. Finally was able to build that van that I wanted to. Oh, by the way, I had a trailer in Alabama too. Nobody had it. We were building a full production trailer and nobody had that. So that was also a separation point when they saw like a legit production trailer. They were like, whoa, what is this? Again, and the advantage isn't just to go, whoa, it was also useful. We had it loaded with stuff we were using all the time. I'm setting up 4x4s and stuff, and who's used to that in Florence, Alabama, right? And Huntsville, obviously the other markets we were shooting in and around of that. So people were like impressed, and then when they saw the quality, they were like, ooh, this is really good.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And then you don't have to go ask for a repeat client. They automatically call, hey, we have another video, or we have a buddy here down the street who can use you or whatever. So
what were your sales strategies when you were in that area? You said at some point you started flying out, doing jobs for other people. How are you getting that type of work?
So same thing. So I went in my freelance thing. I pulled up everyone, that I knew, and I basically sent them an email out. I was like, hey, look, so we're doing this production work now. We have the production trailer. We have all this equipment. Plus I have fly packs. And that was it. To be honest, I didn't really do much. I did join the chamber immediately. The local chamber was very active, doing events there, giving speeches to other business owners. And again, see, things I say now, I was like immediately like I have to join business organization. I was even join Huntsville Chamber, So I was very active from day one from there. But to be honest, like I said, those are long-term strategies. So again, I didn't immediately start to get business from there. But I think it was just that. It was reaching out to every network I have. Everyone that I met with knew what I was doing, right? And then I think it was telling them, hey, this is what I'm up to. And then going to these jobs and just doing a great job and tapping into whatever network I had and just waiting for things to come through. And I think just being, I think, at least for the area, I don't want to take, because like I said, most of the work wasn't in Florence. But also, there wasn't that many options. It was that company or me. So it was like, I'm sure that whoever worked with me was reaching out to Hermosa too. And they were obviously on a different level at that point.
Sure.
But again, I don't know their current revenue or whatever, but I'm pretty sure I went up very, very high. I may have been by the time I left there, even same or higher revenue.
Sure.
But that's what I did. I didn't want to take away, and that's why I say it wasn't a competition. It was just like knowing what other people were doing, and I was like, these people are doing this level of great work, right?
Yep.
I have to do same level of work or at least close to it in the beginning, and then once I was good, I was like, now I have to try and do better work. Not saying my work was any better, but that was at least the aim, right, from my end. And at the end of the day, I was like, I know everyone's not my client, right? That's just the truth. There's so much work, even that little town, that we're fine. As in, like, if and that's why I was like, I do want to know the other side of it. Not all transactions went great. We went to meetings that were like, oh, well, I can hire this guy down the street for $500. Absolutely, you can. I mean,
we're not a good fit.
Yeah, we're not going to do what they're going to do. And it's funny, and sometimes, like I said, I would, because at that time I was small enough that I would follow up and see, and I was like, yep, that's what they wanted. And then they weren't happy, and some would come back. Some would be like, hey, we weren't happy.
Yeah.
Or we want to work with you. Or some would just be like, and then they didn't last. It's so funny, a lot of those businesses closed down too.
Right.
So I wonder what the fate could have been the other way. That's why I'm so bullish on video. You don't have to get it from me. I don't care where you get it, get video and do it right. But like I said, again, it sounds crazy, but that's all I did. I didn't do that much, but I did join the chamber, and that did bring money, by the way, even in Shoals.
Cool.
But it wasn't like I said day one, but it was like maybe 3 months, 4 months down the road.
Yeah.
But I was very like, plus I also liked, here's another thing. So in the beginning, I didn't have an office, right? So people wanted to meet. Where do you meet? The chamber. Most chambers will have like a conference room that you can use. So what I was leveraging was at that chamber, the Shoals Chamber, shout out to them, really good team, really great people, Shoals Chamber of Commerce. So they had like a conference room or whatever that you can, borrow as long as it's available as a chamber member.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just, anytime at a meeting, I'd be like, we're going to meet at the Chamber of Commerce. Gives you credibility, plus gives me an office to meet. I didn't have an office to meet.
There you go.
So that was the perfect place to meet people and have meetings or whatever, or even hiring people. I hired so many people locally. I ran out of people to hire, by the way. The issue I had the
believe that.
opposite. And great, I met great friends. I have so many great friends now still because of that. Because, you start as hiring someone and then you become friends and you still keep up. Funny enough, I was literally texting last night with one of the buddies from there. But point is, yes, I genuinely ran out. So then I had the other issue where I was calling literally every other person. I'm like, you available, you available, you available. And a lot of time, they were not full time. So they had jobs or whatever. So I was actually struggling to fill in roles because there was not that many people there.
Yep.
So either they were, like I said, not full time, or they had jobs or whatever. Like, and then the people that were good were working for Armos already anyway. Because again, there's so small town. So yeah, that was the other side of the issue where I was having issues scaling because I could only have so many people on staff. But no, we did great. We even tapped into the tourism department.
Nice.
We did video for tourism there, and tons of stuff like that. But then again, same thing. It was like I loved going to my meetings. Within months, it was like, okay, we've seen your quality, so we're not even talking about quality, right? We always was talking about business.
Yeah.
But now, not in the first one. I had to obviously show them demo reel and stuff like that to tap the first couple of clients. But after that, it was always like, you've seen my work, right? And if not, let me show you my work first. We're not even going to talk about quality because if we're there, then we have other things to talk about before we talk about what video, why video, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to deliver good quality, but I've never wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm going to do that anyway. Otherwise, this wouldn't be fun, right? This would become another job.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so that's my long rant about what I did in a small town. But obviously, getting out of there was the best decision.
Yeah.
Leaving Shoals, because the airport was in Huntsville. It was not direct flights. Small flights. It was a pain to fly out with gear and yeah. So just having MC over here has been a game changer, and then just direct flights to a lot of common locations that we go to, LA, Vegas, New York, whatever, has also been very helpful. So yes, town doesn't matter. No. But a good airport does matter.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you and I have the same thing in common of trying to run a production company in a small town. And I think there's a lot of benefit of learning how to do that. I used to struggle to try to get people to pay me $1,000 to do like a full commercial in a small town. And it would take months for them to be convinced and show them work that I've done. And, I was well known in the town, and it was still just like pulling teeth to get them to pay anything. But also my cost of living was extremely low, right? Like there's benefits. But
there was definite advantage that, low cost of living definitely helps.
But either way, whether you're in a small town or you're in a big town, it all comes down to just keep going out, make those connections as much as possible, and the work will come flowing to you.
And people will pay high budget. Remember, 2018, I didn't charge less than $3,500. Every project was more than $3,500. That was the minimum I set, right?
Sure.
So I never did a project less than $3,500. I'm talking in Shoals, Alabama, and you're one of you people who get that.
Yeah.
So it's possible. Obviously, it's not easy.
Yep.
Right. The small town, especially $3,500, meant a lot 6 years ago than it does now. Yep. And funny enough, I think I set my rates so well. I have not once raised my rates. My rates, I set my day rate then, and now, again, I know I could charge a lot more, but I have not once upped my rate since I started the company.
Wow.
Now it's internal. I don't really tell to people, obviously, other than, like you hiring me, that's different. But typically clients hire me, not just me, but with the crew. The point is, I have never done a video for less than $3,500 unless I was just the DP or whatever. Now that I do that, but Point is, it's doable. It's obviously harder, but then the advantage you have in a small town is there's not that many other people doing what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And so you can easily, set yourself apart, is what I'm saying. And like I said, it was so weird for me to find out I actually was in a town with a high quality company,
Yep.
which is rare for a small town. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, their clients are from Winnebago and Tiffin, which is rare. Remember, this is a North Alabama, very
Yeah.
small town with a video production company whose clients range from Winnebago and Tiffin. And here I am I'm going to start a video production company. I'm saying I think I was setting myself a little bit up for failure. So I'm just glad it didn't go south. But you know what I mean? It's doable. They were doing it. First of all, that's an amazing example. And then for me to come in and build my own clients. And, I was able to be on sets of Fortune 50 companies from that tiny little town. Funny enough, I don't want to go too many tangents. Talk about pandemic. January 2020, this is before the pandemic. I tell Julie, I'm like, okay, so what's next for Bindra? Right now we've established ourselves. We're doing great content. I'm like, we're going to tap into live streaming. And she's what? Because, at that time, nobody cared about Zoom and live streaming and stuff.
Pre-COVID. Amazing.
So I made a huge investment.
Can you tell the future? Is that what you're telling me right now?
Maybe. I'm telling you. Dude, I go, funny, I was talking about toilet paper. We didn't have that issue either. I've always been like, let's buy things in bulk. So again, we weren't the panic buyers. We just bought it. So it was so crazy. We had toilet paper and everyone's wearing, which made no sense. It has no connection to COVID. But people are just crazy.
Yes.
And then so we were able to help people out with toilet paper of all things. It's just, it makes no sense. But anyway, that's the thing. That's just my nature, as you can tell. I start a production company. 3 days later, I buy 4 C200s.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell something here.
Yeah.
I am
no
always,
brakes.
yeah. That's just been my style. Same thing. I switched over to Sony a couple of years ago. People would go, little by little. I meant, okay, 2FX6, 2FX3s, all GM2 lenses, immediate, you know what I mean? And then 2FX30s. So, anyway, this is the way I do it. Don't do as I do as I say. Anyway, because gear doesn't matter. You can rent it. It's my opinion. Don't invest in gear. I'm just silly. Plus, I'm passionate about technology. Anyway, coming back to the point that I was trying to make, which was, what was it? I lost my train of thought.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
mean, man, we're talking over. Yeah.
We're talking January pre-COVID.
Yes. So pre-COVID. Yes. So I
live streaming.
So I went all into live streaming, and we bought all the equipment and training and everything. I obviously put myself in a room and just did it. Because again, I didn't have resources. So I'm telling people now, just reach out to people who know what they're doing. Makes life a lot easier. But even when you don't, nowadays there's YouTube University. There's very little of that, at least that I remember. But either way, all I did was I built a stick rack. I put myself in a room. I practice every scenario. And again, if I'm going to be there, nothing should go wrong. So I practiced, and I knew, this could go wrong. Then I would buy a double of that. But point is, come February, I felt expert, started doing live streaming events. And come April, the whole world shuts down. And I'm like, when everyone is forced inside, and I was like, we're here, middle of Alabama, or not, small town Alabama. We can actually come, make you content. And then, and that was really great. So, and then funny enough, I thought a pandemic goes away, live streaming would go away, but it hasn't. We've done tons of events, flying all over, even in Central Florida, just, all sorts of conferences and ribbon cuttings and things like that.
Yep.
I think live streaming is a huge market, different but similar than video production, but more, I would say, difficult, because if anything goes wrong, it's going on live. You better be able to fix it.
Oh my goodness!
Because you'd be amazed how many people go into live and then they're like, our internet connection dropped off and the client was so angry. It's not your fault, but it's your fault, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So yeah, maybe in a way, I don't know what came over me. I did predict the future, and I think that is why I think I was able to grow during the pandemic when everyone else, like I said, was sitting at home. I was able to just plus also keep a lot of people around me, with work.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's all I think that's about. Which is what I'm saying. I've always been grow with everyone, keep everyone together, because it's a community. So if some people were able to make some money, I was able to grow my company. Obviously, for a limited time, we became live stream only. Now it's a balance. I would say 40% live streaming. Most of it is back to 60% regular production. But anyway, that did keep us afloat. That kept us going, and I was one of the few people. And I think what also helped was every single person wanted to buy live streaming equipment. It went out of stock, and here I'm like,
I've got it already.
I've got everything. I've got every type of converter, SDI, HDMI, whatever, decimators, and anyway, it was just incredible, man. Like it was like surreal time. Is all I can say.
That's wild. Wild.
Yeah. So next time I'm like again I'm joking. I think I just got lucky. I'm always forward thinking, and then I don't think I was talking about pandemic. I was just thinking about what's next.
Yeah.
It just pandemic helped a lot. I'm sure we would have still done a lot of live streaming. It just wouldn't have grown the way it did. You know. But in a way, I'm glad more people have accepted live streaming. I think it became bigger than it used to be. And just iMag, another thing, it's not live streaming, but you can use similar equipment. I didn't realize an untapped market where when you do conferences, you can offer iMag, which is just putting the image on the screen. And it's so simple to do, and it's so much extra revenue. You can easily charge clients more money. And I've had people from broadcasting and stuff like that who are like, no, you have to use broadcast cameras and whatever. But the thing is, these conferences, they don't want to spend that much money, especially for something as like iMag when they're not live streaming, right?
Yep.
But you can still offer high quality with these cinema cameras nowadays, which is better than what they would do.
Oh yeah.
So I've been able to get more money from that too. So that's an extra bonus that comes out of it anyway.
That's always good.
Yeah. So
what do you primarily focus on as far as like, your bread and butter? What's the work?
Interview and B-roll. I think I could do that. Close my eyes and do it. I mean, most of, again, what I like to do is corporate and commercial. Obviously, my favorite is scripted stuff. But most what businesses need, though, is unscripted content. Like we telling stories from unscripted interviews, and having done thousands and thousands, I mean more than 10,000 interviews at this point. Because a lot of time, what I do, here's my expertise, and I would recommend everyone do that. Figure out how to do high quality interviews, but over and over again in the same day.
Absolutely.
So what I've been able to offer is better budgets to clients where we can go, okay, so we want to tell the story. We have 18 people. I can do that in 1 or 2 production days. And they go, what?
What's the most amount of interviews you've done in like
a single day? 18 to 20.
Okay.
I would say. I'm talking one day, different location.
Yeah.
So, and I've had people who've helped me with those, but like we've literally I've so perfected the interview setup, and you were seeing now I'm trying to go to the next one with literally like pull up, go to the location. I'm talking indoor, outdoor, set up, interview, pack up, out. Next location, set up, interview, pack up, out. Set up, interview, pack like. And these are unscripted interviews, not
are you
lone
interviewing?
locations. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm directing and interviewing. Then I have a crew with me, obviously doing camera, sound, and that's been, like I said, and I'm talking big locations. So for example, to talk about our town, I've gone from like H2O water park to Kia Center to interview Orlando Magic. I'm talking an hour or two. Like that just takes in traffic just to get there.
Oh yeah.
Imagine setting up and interviewing in both locations. One's like a hot sun, a theme park. We have to set up a frame just to even get anything decent, fight the music because, people are enjoying the water park.
Yep.
And then to go Orlando Magic, such huge location to light up an interview. And I'm saying that just was one of the 2. And then we did that all day. We were like, I think at Kissimmee Utility Authority and all these. And point is, that's my thing. Like, but trying to also do them high quality. So not just, set up a camera. No, we're still going to set up a key light, the 3-point lighting, a backlight and all that. And again, at the end of the day, I want people to know that's the production side of it. But what we're trying to do is tell a story.
Yeah.
Right. And if these are the people that you need story to tell for your client, that's what you need to do. And you have to figure out the money making part of this is scheduling, getting your setup down to the T, getting all your settings down to the T, and being able to resolve problems. When you show the location, like I said, that water park, and we can hear music, now you go, oh, well, we know we can't use the copyrighted music, so what can we do, right? And then being able to work with partners, it's like, hey, I know we can't turn off the music. Can we just turn this specific speaker off, right? And then using the correct mics, and I'm like, okay, let me pull out my outdoor mics and being able to bring it as close as possible so, you can reject the rest of the ambient sound. Anyway, but you have 5 minutes to do that. Remember that you have to also think the timeline that's going around you and then having good people to help. Because I'm telling them to set up the frame while I am doing this and be like, 10 minutes will be out. So you're just turning this one speaker off for 10 minutes, getting their buy-in. So they're going to look great and doing that over and over again. But the point I'm trying to get to is at the end, now the client's budget was lower, right? We only had to do 1 or 2 days of production versus 20 days of production. And you were able to tell a better story because those people were important to tell whatever story you were trying to tell. Now, I do want to know, there's a contrast to this. I do interviews all the time where we have 10 people. All they do is just do one talking head, Alexa minis, Cook lenses or signature prime lenses, the whole shebang, big soft, big book light. So production designers, that's the contrast. And now you're spending all day just perfecting that one interview. And that's just the budget and the timeline, right? The client's like, we got 40 grand to tell this one story with, 3 interviews. We're going to take our time, right? We're going to kill it. We're going to bring the better equipment, better time. But if they're like, also, we've got 5 grand, this is the story we want to tell, guess what? I'm still going to tell the right story. We just have to change our timeline, right? Now, is each interview going to look the same as the other one? No. But I bet you it's going to look better than anyone else who had 5 grand and had to do 18 interviews. At least that's my mindset. So I would tell other people, get really good at doing interviews, one, but then get fast at doing them really good. And that's where you can really start to make money in corporate. Because a lot of times they shove you in small little offices and, horrible
conference
locations.
rooms with a giant table in the middle and
red-brown carpets. Man, it's so ugly.
Throw a plant behind them and make it look better.
But you have to look around you in the 5-10 minutes that you have and become the production designer that we're not, and stuff like that. So, but that's the talent. That's the corporate world, and that's not for everyone. But that's how you make money. You make money charging client 5 to 10 grand for that expertise. Right. Once you can do that, that's why you can charge the clients that. Because at the end of the day, they don't care about the production aspect. They care about the result, right? They care about the final video, what it's going to look like. And you have to be able to provide a certain level of quality. You cannot go to a client, and I've never said to a client, hey, the room was brown, ugly carpet, ugly walls.
Can't do it.
So that's why it looks so ugly. Because can you imagine? They were like, what? Because they're not even thinking about that, right? That's not their concern. They're just concerned about is ROI or whatever the story that they're trying to tell or result that they're trying to get. You cannot tell them that. And if you do, then you come across as incompetent, even though you're correct. Tell me if I'm wrong. What's your experience with that?
So let's talk about interviews. The wildest I've ever had was 42 interviews, and we'll say it was 2.5 days, but it wasn't actually.
Crazy.
And they were back to back. Like I pretty much had about 10 or 15 minutes in between each interview.
But were they same location at least?
Same location. Okay. We did move around. It was the same room. So we would move around, periodically just to switch up the background and whatever. But the biggest thing is I had never met these people in my life. And in 5 minutes, I have to sit them down and make a connection with them. And then I had to ask them fairly difficult questions. Some people got emotional on camera. And to be able to do that, make them feel comfortable and get a good story out of them at the same time, like that's an art. I love being able to do that.
Yeah, I think interviewing people is definitely incredible art. And also you never know where it's going to go because you obviously you have an idea, obviously as a director, you have an idea of the story that you're trying to tell, but at the same time, you never know what you get and what you can integrate into that and tell a better story until you get people to be comfortable. And I think that's the key, right?
Absolutely.
Because these people are not actors.
No.
They are not professionals of being on camera. Some CEOs are. They're just ready to go and they're perfect, but that's rare.
It is.
Right? Most people are nervous.
Most people don't want to be on camera.
Exactly. They're being forced by someone or they know they have to or something like that. And so you have to, make them comfortable. And like you said, you have to get the content out. But then you have to do that in 15 minutes or whatever. And that's an art.
Yeah. So funny story with that. So the location that we were at was in downtown Portland, and there was a rail car.
City.
Beautiful. Now, it got bad there for a minute. Now it's
we'll
back
not
to,
go there.
But there was a rail car that would go by. So I had to tell people before the interview, like, hey, if that happens, just stop the interview, which you don't really want to do, but we had to do it. Okay, so we dealt with that. Then all of a sudden on one of the interviews, there was a guy who set up across the street playing saxophone. And I could hear it clearly in my headphones. So the poor producer had to go out there and he scrounged up as much cash as he could and was like, hey, I'm really sorry. You're playing beautifully, but like, can you go play somewhere else? And so they paid him off. And he was happy because he was like, sweet, I just got a good payday.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to have lunch or whatever, right?
But yeah, also being able to just adjust on the fly because you never know what's going to happen, unless you're in a controlled environment.
Yeah, and that's what people love to ask me sometimes. And again, I do want people to know I do few big commercials a year. That's about it. It's not a lot. I'm trying to get to more. But people ask me, they're like, why would somebody pay you $400,000 versus, $50,000 or versus $5,000? And it's like that. Because on those big commercials, we're in a controlled environment. We're at soundstage. We've built sets versus $100,000 or whatever, right? That's where the money's going. And because the talent on stage costs more than the entire production budget, we cannot screw around. As in, like, I hope people know, like, again, on one side, we do value our skills. I'm like, ooh, I can do this expensive production. I am nothing but an ant in what the talent is charging to be there. And so what I'm trying to get to is that's what changes. Your skill set doesn't change. It's the value of things diminishes as you go up, meaning to that level of production, a camera cost is nothing, right? They just expect to use the best because they're paying so much for the talent, not because your Alexa Mini is something extra. Obviously, the skin tones on Alexas are incredible. But what I'm trying to say is people go, why would I use an Alexa when I have an FX3? No, FX3 is an incredible camera. I use it all the time. But when you're being paid that much, that's like the rental fee is not... It's the least of your concerns, I'm saying. And they just want you to use the best because they have, plus, they want the talent to look good. Sometimes these talents even have riders on what filters you can use. But things that, it can get crazy. But point I'm trying to get to is that's why. It's not crazy. It's just we can control the environment. And when you control the environment, it costs money. Yeah. Right?
Well, it comes full circle, It doesn't matter what the client is. If they have a bad experience, whether, you're the producer, director, and somebody on your crew doesn't do a good job or whatever, you're not going to work with them again, right? So you want to make sure that you have every single thing prepared and everything's going to go well. And that if something happens that, you have your list of things that you prepared for and that one wasn't on the list, you can still fix it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why on smaller things, a lot of people go... don't have pad in them, or people try to make so much profit. Like, sure, you're charging client $5,000 for a half day shoot, whatever, or 1 day shoot. And then you have to understand, and you're like, ooh, I can make, because it's a smaller shoot, I can do me and an assistant or just me. And then I can make so much money after I pay the editor. But you have to understand you're charging and you have that much profit because you are prepared for anything that can go wrong, will go wrong. Plus, I don't like to bother my clients. I've had that happen where, sometimes clients will cover the travel themselves, but sometimes it's part of the initial proposal. And I'll add pad because, we show up and it's like, we were going to be straight at this hotel. Now that hotel was booked. Now we have to, take Ubers from the location, or we have to get a rental car. It's a couple $100 now, in a $15,000 project. I'm not going to bother my client. Like, hey, we need to up the budget by 200 plus gas. I'm just going to absorb that gas. And you have to be okay with that as a business owner. Sometimes unexpected costs come up. Unless, obviously, if it was $2,000, I'm calling the client. I'm like, hey, we need to add this to the budget because blah, 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 and have that conversation. But you have to be also able to absorb. Like you said, if you had to pay a little bit to the saxophone player, how beautiful it may be, we get it done. And I mean, and there's two ways to handle it. You can go back to the client, but hey, I paid him $50 or $20. Can I get that back? To me, it's like unprofessional. Just freaking absorb it.
It's a cost of doing business.
It's cost of doing business, right? Yeah. So that's incredible. That's kind of funny too. You're like, hey, you're playing great, but can you get away because we need to film? But that's the type of problems we're solving, right? A lot of time it is not even filmmaking; it's logistics.
Yep.
Funny enough, and I'm getting paid the most. I'm just booking flights and,
Yeah.
and
Making sure people are where
and
they
hotels.
are
Yeah, and
supposed to be.
they know where they can, go bathroom and what they can eat. That's like the half the battle, and that's why you're getting the big bucks, and it's crazy, but that's just what it is. But you make the production happen, because if guess what, people don't know why they eat. They don't have anywhere to go bathroom. You'll have a riot.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, so that's incredible that you had this, and then seems like you travel a lot too for work, right?
Yeah.
How is it? How do you manage, especially with so many kids? How do you manage? Because I have two, and that's hard to manage. How do you manage traveling and just in general being able to maintain a work-life balance?
Yeah. So I spend as much time with my family as possible, probably to a financial or business fault. But for me, that's the most important thing. This past year was the most amount of traveling that I've ever done, and the longest I've ever been away from my family. I did almost 2 weeks straight. I went from Mackinac Island in Michigan all the way to Vegas for a conference. And it was awesome. I really enjoyed the productions, but at the same time, man, being gone that long, you feel like your kids just grow crazy. So I try to do as much stuff as I can locally. And if I'm doing work outside of that, I try to get back as soon as possible. But I'll throw in this as well. When I do travel for work, I try to throw at least one day where I can go and do something. So like I had a same client had a job out in Portland again. I took one day, drove to the coast, got an Airbnb, just enjoyed myself, saw the ocean again, which is always great. Right. Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people that don't do that.
I just show up. I do the shoot. Like I'm telling you, I'm going to be 3-4 days out in California. And my plan is quite literally go to the hotel, go to the shoot, go to the hotel. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that's the right way. Yeah, your method is a lot better, because that at least you're,
financially, it's probably a smarter thing to do, right? But at the same time, I feel like, you only have a limited amount of time that you can get to do this stuff. And I feel like it's a privilege to be able to travel, especially. It still blows me away that people will be like, oh yeah, for sure, we'll cover, your travel, your plane, your food, Uber, whatever, food, whatever else. And it's like, wow, let's take advantage of that. Not in like a bad way, but enjoy it, right?
Yeah. Exactly. No, that's really great, which is what I was talking earlier when we were up in DC last year.
Yeah.
We were able to actually go out and, see the monuments and stuff. I have seen that already. But you know what I mean? It's also important to who you, at least for me, and I need to get better at doing it by myself. But when I'm hanging out with people who do want to do that, like we were in Vegas, and everyone was like, oh, let's go see Hoover Dam. And then so we just drove a little bit out and we watched. So there's an advantage to that. But when I'm alone, I don't do that. And I feel like I need to get better at just taking advantage of where we are. It's so funny. I've said so many times in LA, like one street over from, in Hollywood, from like the Chinese theater and all that. I've never crossed that street. Because I'm like, I'm also wary of things in LA anyway. But what I'm saying, but then every time I go, I could have just, taken 5 minutes out of my day, walked a block, and now I am quite literally the touristy area, and just so I can see what the all the talk is about. But having never done that, because I'm just always like, whatever, let me just go chill in the hotel or whatever. So that is an advantage, and I would say, people don't do as I do as I say, like go take advantage of it. But that's pretty neat. So you're also getting more value out of all this trip and work and everything, right?
Yeah, and that's for me partially, but I think the other thing is when you show people that you're going and doing that stuff. Number one, I'm not saying that you should just go on the internet and brag about your life, but obviously that works, and like just kind of showing people the cool stuff that you get to do. But then, for future clients or even your clients, like they love to hear the fact that I took one day and went and did something cool. And then I show up on set and like, hey, check out what I did. I took some cool pictures, and like, they're like, yeah, that's really cool that you do that. Cause you're right. Most people don't do that. They'll fly all over the US or the world and they don't get to see the stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So 2025, maybe you'll change that.
I'm going to try and change that tomorrow. And
there you go.
I'm going to try and walk around or do something.
I'm going to expect some photos.
Yeah,
so you'll have to send me some.
I need to get better at posting on social too.
Yeah.
So, no, that's actually very smart what you say that. I want to deep dive more into real stuff that people want to probably hear about, numbers and stuff. So how are you? And again, you could pick one example project that you have.
Sure.
And you can round up numbers if you don't want to give exact numbers.
Sure.
But I want to know, how are you? How are you building proposals? Like, how are you coming with a project amount? Because that's what most people starting out struggle with.
Yeah.
Like what to charge.
Yeah.
So how do you come up with that number on what to charge? And obviously, you'll have to pick up a project, just whichever one.
Yeah. So, like the larger projects, it's you're figuring out what your day rate is, and then what expenses you have, and then you're just adding padding on top of that, right? And it just depends on what you can think you can get away with the client, not being dishonest, but just like trying to figure out what's the wiggle room in there. How much creativity are you bringing? Is it just showing up and doing a very standard corporate interview, that's kind of lower budget, or are you coming in, you're bringing, a bunch of creativity and a bunch of crew and everything else. So that's really.
Yeah. So how do you, so give us an example. Do you have any project that comes into mind where you can give people some numbers?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head, other than we just locked in a contract for about $30,000.
Look at that. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So what's the deliverables on that going to be?
So technically it's one video, which is pretty sweet.
Look at that. One video for $30K. Now we're talking. All right.
Yeah. So that being
that's
said,
what people, I think most people want to be in the corporate world. So $30K, one video. Now let's talk about real thing like costs.
Yeah.
And obviously you haven't done it. You just booked it. So what do you anticipate your costs being? So
when I split it up, I think I'm going to probably have about $15,000 in expenses, and it could be more. It's likely it will end up being more. There's a lot of unknown variables. I'm working with the client's schedule, and I'm trying to be as flexible as possible. And I know there's some people that would, say, hey, it's going to be this much per day.
Yeah.
But I'm just trying to go there and work with the client, because obviously they're working with me, right? So then there's specific days that I have to have people, and then I can say, all right, that person is going to be this much plus a little bit of padding, and here's what that production day is going to cost. So
exactly. So, and that's pretty standard, 40-50% profit in a $30K video. Now, how many production days is it? Or you're anticipating at least?
So it will probably end up being just over 2 weeks.
2 weeks, and that's pretty good now.
Yeah.
So if you see the other side of it, 2 weeks of production for $30K is actually pretty good. And then are you including travel costs? Are those extra, or do you not have any travel?
Everything is in one lump sum.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm trying to work things to obviously be as favorable to me as possible, but at the same time,
can you tell us location where you're going to be going to do this? City or state?
Wisconsin and Vegas.
Look at that. I love Vegas. All right. So that's pretty good. Man, and you have to see from the client's perspective, they can just give you, they don't have to worry about variables. They're like, hey, look, here's $30K. You're going to, produce this a video, and then it's good for them. Now they don't have any variable. And some clients like it differently. Some want the travel to be separate. But for this client, and a lot of mine clients are like this, it's like, okay, this is it. Like, you figure out your expenses and everything. So they have that advantage. There's no variables. But for you, on the other hand, now you can go out and maybe try and shave some costs or whatever, right? And build, and that's why you also have padding, because sometimes costs may change. Hotel prices can vary a lot.
Flight changes alone, you could be spending double what you think you're going to spend.
Exactly. So it gives you freedom though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things that I did too, and I think is important, as you run a production company, is just think, what is the value that you can bring, right? So they came to me and they said, we need a 3 to 4 minute video. Here are the things that it's going to entail, we think. And I could have just said, okay, well, it's going to cost X amount. But I'm going to them, and I sat down, had a long conversation with them. It's actually multiple businesses, all under the same owner. They've acquired new business, right? And they're doing rebranding. Well, the one video has one specific purpose. But now when I talk to them, it turns out that they don't have a marketing person. And we can go there and we can shoot a bunch of other stuff, and then we can sell that to them
in the future,
on, right?
Yeah, look at that.
Instead of being like, well, we're just going to do this one thing and then we'll come back another time. Now we're building a relationship just based on one video, right?
Look at that. And that's what I tell people, your data is your biggest asset. By data I mean our footage and audio and whatever we record, because you won't believe how much extra money we can make, right? 6 months, year down the road, they're like, hey, we need to even just with the same content, they're like, oh, we need to make a different edit or a social edit or whatever.
Yep.
And you can do that because you own the data. So that's why I'm like, your data is very valuable. Save it, store it, don't lose it. Save it in 3 different places. The 3-2-1 backup rule, please look that up and follow that, because that's, I think, as a production company, at least you can keep making revenue from stuff you've already shot.
Yes.
And you would be amazed how many times I've gone back and been like, oh yeah, we have 3 years of content for you. We can build a journey video or whatever. Like, look, here's our special, annual event. Like, look, let's see where you came from, right? And all that.
Yep.
You can't do that if you don't have that content. Because most clients at most, they have photo or cell phone videos, and that's not that good. Obviously you can do something with that if that's all they have.
Yeah.
But you can do so much more, and you are an asset that they're not going away because you have that archival data. So that's really smart that you're thinking about it. Is this an existing client or a new client?
New client.
So how did they find you?
Friends.
Oh, friends. You mean people in production world or just regular friends?
I've known these people for a good long time. It's never worked out that I would work with them, and I've never pushed it. That's one thing. I kind of believe in things coming organically, right?
Yeah, don't burn bridges, because you never know. You never know. It may not be the right time now, but it can come back.
Yep.
So obviously, new client, but you've known them. So that's pretty good. Now they came to you. You already explained that. You have this deep dive with them. Was it remote, I'm guessing, on a video call or something? Or
Actually, just a phone call.
Just phone call, okay.
Yeah.
And you had this conversation with them. What did you pitch to them? What was your final, they've told you all these questions. You asked them questions, right?
Yep.
I guess what the video is for, right? Any other deep dive questions that you asked that we don't?
So they actually gave me I can't talk about it, but they gave me very specific, like, this is what the video is going to be for. This is where it's going to be shown, and so,
then what did you ask? Obviously broader questions. What did you want to know where you came to this conclusion that you did?
Yeah. So they sent over a video of what had kind of been done in the past by a competitor, which was not great. And so they kind of gave me a little bit of framework of what they were looking for. And then it was me just asking more questions, right? Whether it's an interview on the phone or you're interviewing for an actual video, you just want to dive in and know as much as possible. And the more questions you ask, the more they're just going to keep feeding you information. And they're actually technically selling you to themselves, right?
Because they came to you, they're obviously interested already. They just want to know that they'll get the ROI that they want, right? And then how do you pitch that? That's the main thing I want to know, because I think people struggle with that. Now you've come up with the number. Obviously, they didn't give you a budget in this one, right? You came up with the 30K number, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of people struggle with being able to say these big numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to know, you're on the call. You've built this proposal in your head or in your paper, however you do it. But do you present it right there and then on the phone, or do you later send a proposal? Yeah. So do you go over with them? So now you've created the proposal. Did you did you just send it over to them, or did you hop on the phone call first and say, let me go over this with you? How did you approach that?
I've done that in the past, but most of the time I just send over, what the proposal is going to be and say, if you'd like to review it, or if you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to chat with you and, see, like, most of the time it's just important to say this is not a final number. This is kind of get us in the ballpark area. Let's see how you're feeling. I have done it on the phone before. I'm sure for some people it might work out well. For me, it feels a little bit pushy.
Yeah.
But it does give you a really good reaction, especially if you can do it over a video call. Then you can actually watch their facial expression, and then you can see okay, how do I react? Like if they go, ooh, you can be like, well, there's some things that we can massage, or we can take out a couple of things depending on what your budget is.
So how was their reaction? Was it an immediate yes, or did they come back and talk about money? Or?
I sent the proposal on Friday, and then I got a call on Monday. Part of me wanted to be a little bit pushy and message them Monday morning, be like, hey, did you get my thing? Or
I got to give them
just
time.
Leave it alone. And I got a call, and they're like, yeah, sounds good. We're going to be moving forward. You got the green light. And now it will just be a bunch of production calls after that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Do you split it in anywhere, or is it all payment up front? How do you split your your project costs?
Yeah. So typically I do 50% upfront unless it's a larger. So like with this one, it's a little bit of a larger budget. So I just proposed that we're going to split it into 3 payments over the course of 3 months. They seem to be totally fine with that.
Okay.
I leave it up to people for the most part.
Are you going to deliver deliverables before the monies fully come in, or no?
In this situation, I will likely be paid before the deliverables are going to happen. But this one is a unique situation where there is a deadline to shoot, and then the final edit is due 2 days later.
Okay. Oh, wow. So you have 2 days to deliver the edit?
Most of it will be edited. There's
Beforehand.
one production day that we need to get specific content, and then that will just be
integrated into
so
that.
it should
Okay.
be fully done except for just the last part.
Yeah, makes sense. And you would be fully paid by then.
Yeah.
Do you care about that typically, or no? Like when you get paid, or no? What's your experience on that?
Not really. The only thing that I have as blanket advice is one client did this thing where they said, oh, we're not going to pay you until we get deliverables, which I was like, for sure, I can do that. No problem. Like I'm good at hitting deadlines or whatever. Well, they kept asking for revisions and revisions and revisions. And I was too polite. Sometimes I'm a little bit too nice, a little too Wisconsin or Minnesota nice. And I was like, yep, it's totally fine. And they ended up pushing it so that I didn't get paid for a month after. And at that point we were a little bit tighter. Yeah. That was really difficult. But I don't like to run into that.
So do you do contracts? So do you put a cap on the number of revisions on your contract, or no? What does that say?
Usually I just tell people 3 revisions, but I'm pretty flexible unless they're asking for something that's just like, pushing scope.
Yeah. Have you had to put your foot down sometimes? Have you have you handled those conversations where you're to be like either with revisions or something else, like, no, this is the scope.
Yeah.
If you do anything more, we're changing the scope of work. How have you handled those?
Thankfully, I've really had awesome clients, so I haven't had to do that too much. But if not, I'm just super straightforward and like, hey, like we've already done this many revisions. If we're going to do any further, then it's going to cost, this much per hour per whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
And how have the clients handled it?
For the most part, good. I think people appreciate transparency. And so if you just do that and you don't try to be strange about it, like they understand it's business at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, we're just trying to send them an offer, and which is a solution to a problem that they have. Do you use like a proposal? How do you get them to sign a contract? Do you have like DocuSign or a proposal software that they sign? How are you getting signatures on these contracts?
So I use Honeybook, and if you want that, I can do a referral because I end up getting money.
Oh, look at that. Hey, we don't
I've never
peddle
had that
anything.
happen,
I'm like, we don't peddle anything on this, but sure. But
Sorry.
funny enough, here's the contrast thing. I had a bad experience with. I used Honeybook in the beginning when I started. I wasn't a fan of it, but hey, if it works for you, it works for you. What do you like about Honeybook?
I've been using it for so long that it'd be really difficult for me to switch to anything else. For me, it's just a really good way to keep track of my projects. I would say the only thing that I don't like is I wish I had an option, or maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, but to kind of separate like warm leads and cold leads, because I'd like to start reaching out to more cold leads. But for me, it's a really good way to figure out, what projects do I currently have going on. It allows payment through there, whether it's credit card or ACH, or they can send you a check, obviously. So I know my payments. It connects to QuickBooks, so it goes directly to my accountant. And it's, I can just keep track of my projects.
Yeah, I liked, and things may have changed. Remember, it's been years since I had Honeybook. I really liked that. I liked what they were initially offering, which was a combination of CRM, payment processing, contract signature, proposal, all in one. And that sounded really great to me in the beginning, because I was like, oh, I can just have all the projects show up in here, the timeline, everything. And then I could create contracts from here. I can get payments from in here. But then I realized that they were, like what I'm against. I'm like hire experts. I was like, they're jack of all trades, master of none. Like the other CRMs I found were better. Right. So we found a dedicated CRM. Then I was like, oh, all other proposal software are better. So I switched to, and then same thing with payment. I was like, oh, their payment platform is through Stripe, but you get zero control over it. they could revoke you because you have to go through Honeybook directly. Whatever they're using at the back end doesn't matter. And so I was like, oh, I'd rather just go have my own payment platform because now I can see who's paying me with what card and all the detail.
Sure.
Just so it's a legit payment. Point is, and so we ended up switching to individual softwares that still integrate. Like my proposal software automatically charge clients through Stripe or whatever and send it to my CRM of choice, which is HubSpot. Anyway, point is, it still works, but I had to do all that integration myself versus being in one. But anyway, it seems like your experience has been great. So there's a contrasting thing. Doesn't work for me. Doesn't mean it's not a good software. But here was my biggest issue with it, and let's see if that's changed.
Sure.
What I hated was the biggest thing for me was I want to send them a proposal or the agreement or whatever, and it has the agreement that they agreed to, blah, 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 everything's good. So they would have to sign, and then I would have to freaking countersign it. I'm like, why do I need to countersign it? They sign it, done. They agree to the terms. Like, anyway.
So the easiest way to get past that is you can either send proposals where you do have to do that, or you can just send an invoice, and then you don't have to worry about that.
But they still can sign it?
You can put a contract in there and make them sign it.
Okay, and then you don't have to countersign it? Correct. But they still do the regular proposal where you have to countersign? Yeah,
yes.
They need to get rid of that. I mean, maybe we'll give it another shot if that happened. But anyway, that was like my biggest thing. I was like, I don't need to countersign it. Like, they're agreeing to my terms of service. Exactly. Like, anyway, that was interesting. And that was annoying because that means it wouldn't initially be executed. I want them to look at it. Obviously, we can negotiate if they want changes, but ideally, when I'm sending it, we're ready to just move forward. But then I want them to be able to sign, make a payment, we move forward. Like,
don't make it difficult. They're busy enough.
Yeah, and then we're busy enough that we, and that would always kind of throw me off. I'm like, oh, I got to go back and countersign and forget 2 days later, whatever. Then the client's getting an email, oh, look, your contract's not executed. They're like, what is... Anyway, it's to me, it was a confusing factor, but that's good to know that there is a workaround that you found where you don't have to do that, generating invoices.
One other thing that I really appreciate is if I send any form of an email through the Honeybook system, I can see if they've opened it or not, which sounds a little creepy, but as a business owner, especially for a production company, it's really good to know whether, somebody's actually busy enough that they haven't opened the email or if they've seen it and you're like, all right. Couple days, let's send them a reminder and just kind of gauge where they're at. And
absolutely. I love that about, so we use Better Proposals, and what I love about the same thing, it can track. So it's good to be able to know they open the email. I don't know if Honeybook does that, but it tells you how long they open the email for.
No.
It also tells you on the proposal which page, because it's a multi-page. They stayed on the which page for how long, and then when they signed, what IP they signed from, everything. But my favorite part is that. Because sometimes, clients are busy. They open the email, they never open the proposal. So now
So if they spend 10 seconds, you're like, they didn't actually read it.
Exactly. And they never don't even the price. Because, you want to know when you call back what maybe the factors of the price, or is it, the contract or whatever, is it not deliverables? But when you're like, okay, they spent a minute reading the email or 30 seconds reading the email, but they never even click, because with the Better Proposal, they have to click the word proposal, right? And then it shows up. So, they haven't even looked at the proposal. So it's not the money factor at all. It's just either they were busy or something of that nature. Because they were expecting my proposal. So they were in click. So it's a much easier follow-up. Hey, have you looked at it? They're like, oh, I forgot about it. Right? Something like that. And then the other thing is when they have opened it, I can see where they spent the time. Oh, they looked at the price and then pay. Oh, now I know what the issue is. Or they looked at the deliverables. Same thing. They didn't go to the next page where the pricing is. So, let me check with them. But now that they've seen prices, my first thing is, hey, what do you think? Was this within the budget? Typically, I like to have the budget talk on the phone before. But for some reason, let's say we can go, oh, what was it? Right? And then, but you're already prepared for, hey, this is the type of conversation I'm going to have. It just helps, I think. And it helps you to know which stage the client is in, where they are, where the if factor may be. And very rarely, what I found the best thing was they sign. Usually it says pay. And most people pay. My takeout rate got so high, pay. Like I would have to. I stopped having to ask people to make a payment, and I love that.
Amazing.
Doing this way, but some people will go there. They've signed, now they haven't made a payment, and that's weird for me. So now it's like, and until the payment's made, we can't move forward with pre-production calls or whatever. Now so let me call and ask what happened. Because you signed it, you clearly agreed with the payment terms and everything. So why didn't you make a payment? And it could be like, oh, we're just waiting on A, B, C, whatever. You know what I mean? I like you. I like that, being able to know what
Yep.
stage they're in.
It's a
So it
little
helps.
extra transparency.
Yeah, exactly. And it helps us to not figure out, like, I may think it's whatever the issue is, and that's not at all the issue.
Oh,
So
man.
avoiding,
Yeah.
talk that doesn't need to be even talked about, because once they're sold, right?
Yep.
You don't want to be reselling them on anything.
Right.
But if they're not sold, they haven't signed it, then you can go back and discuss, hey, was it the money, or was it the deliverables, or whatever the issue was. And funny enough, best clients, I think, don't even think about it. I've had that happen. Repeat clients where I'll send them a proposal, the email was open, week goes by, they haven't signed, and I'll reach out and I'll be like, hey, literal text, like, hey, what happened? I need to book flights. And they'll be like, oh, forgot about it. And then before I can respond, no worries, or something, they've already paid. They send me a screenshot like, oh, paid. All right, here's 15 grand in the account. And I love that, because sometimes that's all it is. It's just they're busy people, they forgot. And a quick reminder could mean that they could go in and quickly make a payment. But do you find that I find the bigger the client, typically, the easier the payment comes?
Yeah, let's just go on a quick tangent of that. If you have clients and they are nickel and diming you, and they have all sorts of questions, and they keep asking for revisions, and generally when you think about working with them, you're like, man, this is work. Then you probably want to get rid of them. And I've been in the place where, like, hey, you need some money, you're going to work with those clients. But man, the satisfaction of being like, hey, this is not working out. And sometimes it's scary, because you're like, I really need that money coming in. But then finding those clients, just like you talked about, that have no problem, like, oh yeah, you need 10 grand for the month so that you can, take care of expenses and whatever else. Absolutely. I'll send it over right away. Right. Because they understand they're working on a higher level. They understand how business works, and they have no problem. This is just a part of doing business, and they're happy to work with you. And then you feel good about the entire situation, and you can do better work, rather than like, oh my goodness, so-and-so is calling. I really don't want to talk with them for 5 hours about
whatever.
revisions.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we need to know is that we are their favorite vendor, because guess what? Video is the most effective form of marketing. You generally gives the best ROI, whether it's direct sales or indirectly, like processes or whatever we're trying to solve. And we make them the most amount of money. So we should be their favorite vendor to pay. Plus, generally, I'm not a tax advisor, ask a CPA or whatever, but generally on their side, advertising, which is what we are, our expense, is fully write-offable. So they love that they can write off the whole thing, and they're making money from us. So we should be their favorite vendor. And if you're not, that means you need to hop on a call or a meeting and educate your client. And maybe it's rare, but maybe you can bring that client from this level to this level where they can understand, like, look, this is the place where you got to be spending your most marketing money, because we can make the most impact. And sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can't. I like being able to grow my clients, right? Who are here. And now you're like, I've had clients who are like, oh, we're a franchise, we bought something. And you start working with them, and next thing you know, they bought freaking the whole state's worth of franchises, and they've grown, and we grow with them, right? Because now we're making 10x the content or whatever for them. So it's good for everyone. But then there are business owners who are still, I would say green or whatever, like they're not there to go there, and that's okay too. That's why you find clients who have the money, right? Who can actually help you, who don't have to worry about little money like that. And then you're not chasing money, because that's like my least favorite thing. I have very few clients who do that, but that's like you're like, after I've spent, I should have charged you like whatever your hourly rate is. You're like, I should just times that by the amount of hours we spent, just chasing you to get this stupid payment, and it's kind of ridiculous at this point, So I try to avoid those clients, because at the end of the day, we want to be making content and not be chasing money. And plus, this is again, I want to do the best for them, and if it sours the relationship, and I'm not going to be able to give my 100%, I'd just rather not. And have you dropped a client yet ever?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
How was that experience? Have you sent a direct email or just stopped working with them? Have you ever had to where it'd be like, oh, we may not be the right fit type of email?
I'm an over communicator, and I think that's the way to do things. I don't ever just like stop communications with people. I can't do that.
Please don't ghost anyone. Yeah, that's not nice.
No.
So how actually, have you broken that news?
Last year, there was somebody I did editing for, and I started off, very reasonable for them, kind of a friend situation. And then I kept upping, because I was like, man, this is taking so long.
Yeah.
And I found out that it was actually cutting into me being able to get bigger and better clients, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, at that point, I really needed money. So it was super hard, but I took a chance. Like I prayed about it. My wife and I talked about it, and we were just like, yep, it's got to happen.
Yeah.
So I just communicated with him. I'm like, hey, like if we're going to keep working together, I have to go higher.
Yeah.
And he was like, you're about at our cap. Like
Yeah.
we can't go much higher than this. And I'm like, well, then it might be time to find a different editor, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, but that was the right way to say it. And like I say, you thought about it. You didn't just do it over on a whim. Because here's the thing. Sometimes you have to do that as you scale up. A lot of us want to bring our clients with us, and some will, but a lot of them don't, because it's a lot easier to find a 10K, 20K, 50K client than to bring your 1K client to 10K or 50K.
Yeah.
Because, unless they have a full buy-in, you can do that with video, but some clients at that level don't yet have the buy-in. And like you said, I found the best, you do best for them and yourself when you're not struggling. Because I found when you're, when you need the money, you tend to want to take everything. Or at least take the clients you normally wouldn't. And I find you give honest advice and build a better relationship when you're not worrying about basic finances. Because then you can be honest about it. You're like, I want them, but if I didn't get this job, it wouldn't be the end of the world. And then I find, right, you can go in the sales meeting and you can be honest about it or whatever. Or you can, you try to give them a right solution instead of just do whatever. Because clients will come with silly requests. We want, I don't know, a testimonial video for, X number of dollars or whatever that needs going to be shot in this city or whatever. And we're not going to pay travel budget, whatever. I mean, they could come up with fantasy land things in their brain. But then you can bring them back to the ground versus trying to figure out how can I make this happen. You know what I mean? Do you feel that way?
Yeah. Anytime you try to make sales happen, whether it's a repeat client or it's a brand new client, but you're doing it out of desperation, specifically for financial stuff, like people can smell it from a mile away. You don't even need to tell them, but they can feel the energy coming off of you. And they're like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, exactly. Do you struggle with that? Because as production people, and we work at different price ranges. Do you struggle with sometimes narrowing it down? Like if it's a new client, like are they the 5K client, are they the 20K client, or 50K client, right? Because you don't want to over or under shock them. Because if they came in with a 5K budget but they weren't telling you or whatever, how's your strategy to approach that? How do you narrow it down? Basically what I'm saying is, what level of production or budget are they in? Because you don't want to be making a 50K proposal for somebody looking for a 5K video. So how do you kind of qualify them? Do you have a process or questions that you ask or whatever?
Basically just ask as many questions as possible. I would say the most important ones are, have you ever worked with a video production company before? What sort of budget did you spend with them? And then of course you can ask them what they think their budget is. Of course, these days, there's a lot of people, we don't have a specific budget in mind. It's like, well, okay. Then if you're on the phone call or a video call, I usually like to say, all right, typically, projects of this size might run between 5 and 10 or 10 and 20 or something like that. And then you can gauge their response, right? And right there, even if it's not a specific number, you can see what sort of ballpark you're playing in. Yeah. And then you can build a proposal based off of that, right?
Okay, perfect. No, that's actually a very good thing. Sometimes you just have to ask, and a lot of people won't have an answer. So my first question always is that same thing. Do you have a certain budget that we need to hit? And most people will say, no, you tell us. And then okay, you have to ask more qualified questions to get to the final, because they have a number. Yeah. Anyone who says no,
they're lying.
They're lying. They have a number. Because, otherwise you could say $1 million right away. They'll be like, no, you know what I mean? Like everyone has a number. Sometimes A, they may not genuinely be sure, or B, they just are waiting for you to throw. Whoever throws the first number loses. This is the truth. So I genuinely like to gauge where they are, what, like you said, just ask them qualifying questions. And most of the time they'll give it to you, because again, at the end of the day, it's a negotiation, it's a business transaction. And the main thing for me is, and tell me it's the truth, they're gonna get their money's worth. Like, meaning, if they give me $5,000, they're not getting the $30,000 video, and they give me $30,000, they're not getting the $5,000 video. They're getting the $30,000 treatment. It is, and at the end of the day, we're not like just arbitrarily making up numbers. the production is different at different ranges, and so it's not like it's not like an iPad or whatever. Like, oh sure, if you pay me $30,000, you're still getting the $500 iPad.
It's just rose gold.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we don't do that. It genuinely, like, the budget changes the level of production. And so we're not just trying to just say numbers just to be. I mean, at the lower level maybe, because if it's just you. Maybe
and you're starting
out. You maybe the $200-$300 to $1,000.
What's rent and how much is grocery? Okay, and then if I do
yeah, exactly, and that's okay. Under $1,000-$1,500, that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
but that's a different market. That's not where we want. At least I think the people listening to it is either they are at the ranges that we're in, or they're trying to be in.
Yeah,
and I think that's the way to approach it. You can't approach it like arbitrarily making up numbers, because your client will quickly figure it out.
But your business is going to fail, right?
Yeah, exactly.
When you think about running a business long term, you want to think about, how can I actually grow this business? It's not just because you want to say, oh, I'm doing a $10,000 or $20,000 or $400,000 job. Mm-hmm. Like, cool, that's a feather in the cap. Yeah. And, it sounds cool, especially at different levels. But at the end of the day, you want to provide return on investment for your client, they, blow their mind. And then you want to build your business so that you can, provide for yourself and for your family and for the other contractors that you're hiring. And like, it's fun. But you got to do it correct.
And it's so
pay
crazy.
Your taxes.
Yes, please do that. Hire professionals for yourself, like you're a professional for other people. Mm-hmm. What's crazy to me is I feel like we just sat down and started talking, and somehow our time is almost up. Before we go quickly, and again, I don't think equipment matters. Plus, I think you should be renting it before buying it for other people. But people probably want to know, what equipment are you shooting with right now?
I'm not super exciting. I have the Sony A7 IV. So I ran the gamut where I did the GH5 when I worked at Northern, and I loved it. And that was my main production camera. And maybe I'll get some hate for this, but I got a big job and I went out and I bought the Red Scarlet W. Oh. Super cool. I had a Red. And then I started shooting interviews with the Red and the GH5 next to one another. And I was like,
this isn't going to work.
I don't know. I can't really tell too much of a difference. Yeah. I'm sure in some capacities you can. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I now live in an area where I can rent stuff if I need to, or I can hire contractors. So I'm not hoarding gear right now. Mm-hmm. I kind of have my basic kit that I need.
Yeah. And so A7 IV, what drone are you using?
Mavic Air 3.
Mavic Air 3. Mm-hmm. And any lights that you have that you commonly reach for?
I have well-used Aperture 300Ds.
Look at that, people. $30,000 client with that equipment. Equipment doesn't matter. Plus, you said it best. If you need something better, you can always rent it. It's not necessary to go out, just buy. And funny enough, we don't have time. Otherwise, I would love to go into my story with Reds and everything. But next time. There's always next time. But especially with you, I'm like, I have not even barely touched the surface, and 2 hours is over. So we definitely need to have do a part 2 maybe next season.
I would love to.
So again, thank you for coming.
Sharing
your insights with us. I hope people learned something, because I learned a lot. I'm already going to go implement it, and I hope the same. But no, you're welcome to come back, and I think we're going to definitely. I already know for a fact we're going to continue this conversation in the next season. So thank you, Josh. Before we go, is there anything else you want to share? Maybe tell people your Instagram or YouTube or wherever you want people to follow you.
Sure. LeClair.media is my website and Instagram handle too. You can find me on either one of those.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome back anytime again. Thank you.
Awesome. I appreciate it.